When it comes to running a business from the road, many people think about a digital lifestyle where their laptop is the only tool they need to run a business. Well, in the case of Mel from sustainable fashion label Barefoot Wanderer, she did need her laptop, but would you believe it was her sewing machine that actually took out first prize for most needed tool whilst travelling? Now planning to hit the road again, Mel is making some changes to allow her to grow her business while she's on the road. In this episode of Big Lap Business, we hear her story. Check it out. Hey Big Lap community, welcome back to another episode of Big Lap Business with me, Rose. And today I'm here with Mel. Hey Mel.
Hi.
And Mel is from Good Life Griffith. I knew I was going to have a hard time saying that. Griffiths, it's a really hard surname for me to say.
Everyone finds it really hard
But Mel also runs the fashion label Barefoot Wanderer, which is super cool, and we're going to check that out today. But first, let's get to know you, Mel. Who are you as a family?
So I'm Mel. I'm mama to three little wild ones, Marley, Flo and Daisy. Marley is about to turn 5 on Saturday. Flo will be 3 in March, the end of March, and Daisy will be 2 at the end of May. And my husband's name is Sam, and he's sort of my 4th child.
Yes, I know that feeling too well. Now, you're a bit of a traveler at heart, aren't you? And it's kind of how you even set up your business, or the inspiration behind your business. So let's talk a bit about Barefoot Wanderer and how did that all start? How did it all come to be?
Yeah, definitely. So I've always loved the idea of traveling. I remember when I was in high school, I just begged my mum to send me off to America so I could do a 1-year stint over there. I wanted to go and live with a host family and stuff, and she was so scared about letting me go over there and live with a random family. So she said, you know what, I'll send you to Japan, because our local community had this thing running where you can send your high school age students to Japan for 2 weeks, and they were going to be monitored with adults go with them, and they're in the small group, and we learned how to speak Japanese and everything before we went. So she said, if you can spend 2 weeks in Japan, I'll let you go to America. And I did. So I spent 2 weeks in Japan, and then came home and said, all right, Mum, so I'm ready to go to America now. So then I went over to America for 3 months at the end of year 10, actually, the end of year 10. So I've always loved traveling, and it's been something that I've always spent sort of my money on. Is like the goal was always to, save up a bit more and then do another trip. So when we had kids, we just, it gets a little bit harder to save money and do that, and the logistics of it all. And you kind of need a kitchen so that you can clean up after yourself, or a little bathroom so you can, wash them in the tub and things like that. So, that's how we ended up buying our bus and then traveling in our bus. But Barefoot Wanderer, that kind of came about after I finished uni. I went traveling for 6 months without Sam. Poor Sam got left behind.
He's a good guy letting you go.
Yeah, he was.
I suppose he didn't have much of a choice, did he?
No, he had no choice at all. It was either you come with me or I go by myself. Yeah. He couldn't save money in time, so I went by myself. So I went traveling, and I met a few friends over there and traveled with them, and I just kept seeing the most beautiful textiles and pillowcases that were bedazzled in sequins, and I saw the most amazing throws for beds and backpacks that had these hand stitched patterns in them, and I just was so inspired by that I bought home a whole bunch of fabric with me. I kept collecting it as I went. Before I had to throw out clothes, I was throwing clothes out of my backpack and giving them away in the hostels just so I could buy more fabric.
Well, that's dedication to the cause.
Yeah. And then I came home and just started sewing random things out of that fabric. So it was sort of purses and women's tops and babies' bibs and just anything really, just having fun with it. Because when I did come home, Sam and I got married. We got engaged the day after I got home, got married 4 months later, fell pregnant with Marley a month later. And then before I knew it, I was a stay-at-home mum. So I had plenty of time to sew and create. And that's when Barefoot Wanderer came about, was when I was at home with her. I just needed something else to do because I'm a busy person and I can't just enjoy one thing at a time.
So how long have you been running Barefoot Wanderer now?
So it would have been since just having like just since when I was pregnant with Marley, I think. And so she'll be 4 in
Mhm.
a week. Sorry, she'll be 5 in a week. Jeez,
Wow.
keep losing track of time. She'll be 5 in a week. So it would have been about 6 years. Yeah, because I would have started it maybe just when I was pregnant with her.
That's pretty cool. Now, in terms of work, you're not currently on the road, but in terms of running the business on the road, what are the challenges there?
Oh, there's so many challenges. So when we went traveling back in 2019, Daisy was a newborn at that time. So our youngest was only 12 weeks old when we left. And I actually, before we left, I just sort of gave up and was like, no, I can't do it anymore. I can't run a business and also have 3 kids and live in a bus.
Mhm.
So I was very prepared to give the whole thing up. And it wasn't until Sam said, no, Mel, like I'll create a little space for your sewing machine and we'll make sure that we have all your stock in boxes and we'll do it all. It'll be fine because he knows what I'm like. I wouldn't be able to not have something sort of on the
Yeah.
side that I'm doing. Yeah. And so basically we had a special space in our bus for the sewing machine. We had,
Wow.
I packed everything up into little boxes. So you've got all the little bits of thread and you've got like sewing bobbins and you've got needles and you've got just all these little things that have to be packed away. So everything was packed into boxes to keep it sort of protected from all the dust and especially going through the centre of Australia, all the red dust that comes flying in the back doors of the bus and everything. So that was all packed into boxes in the back of the bus. And whenever we'd stop for like more than a day, I would try to set up and sew so that when an order would come through, I'd have stock ready there to ship off. But that in itself was tricky because it'd be like bedtime. Sam would be setting up camp, trying to make a fire or trying to cook and trying to entertain the 3 kids. And I'd be outside. We'd have this little table that would fold off the side of the bus. So I'd be outside, in like the middle of winter or like down in Tasmania, it's so cold down there, just trying to sew with big jumpers on, trying to sew a whole bunch of stock. Or I'd be up, I remember up north, it was like sweltering. The heat was so hot up there. And we were around a campfire all night and I'd just gotten Daisy to sleep because newborns are very sort of unpredictable. You just never know when they're going to go off. So I'd just gotten her to sleep. And then I had to pull out all my sewing gear at like 9:30 at night and sew off the side of the bus.
Oh,
everyone around me was asleep and I had no idea where I was. And we're like literally camping in the middle of nowhere. And here I am outside in the dark sewing. So it was very interesting and very challenging. So this time around with our new bus build, we're definitely taking that into consideration and even just like taking our routine into consideration more as well. So I was saying to Sam the other day, we'll definitely do something where maybe he goes off for an hour and a half in the morning. Maybe he wakes up early and does his own thing for an hour and a half. And then he comes back and takes the kids and I get to do my thing for an hour and a half. And that way we both get to have some time in the morning where we can work on our own little things and juggle the kids that way. And that way it's not, late at night again where I'm stuck doing work, at 9 o'clock at night when everyone's finally in bed and the bus is finally clean and all that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I can completely resonate with that because as a business owner myself, I know that especially when you're traveling, you want to be doing the fun stuff, you want to do the family thing, and then you've just got to fit in the work after that. So whilst everybody's resting up and going to bed, you end up having to fit in the work. And it's quite stressful. How did you manage that kind of stress?
I don't know. I'm actually not sure. I guess it's just I was so driven to do it that I didn't really consider or didn't really let the stress get to me that much. I mean, there was times when like there'd be so much going on at once. There'd be kids who were like refusing to sleep or we couldn't find anywhere to stop to let them go to sleep or we'd have no reception for days. So all of a sudden I had all these orders to sew as well as all these people to get back to through messages and stuff. Or I don't know, the bus would break down and all of a sudden my business came last because the first thing that we had to sort out was the bus. And the second thing was like the kids being happy and stuff. So it would be my business would get pushed to last. So Yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of one of those things where you just every day you just go, okay, so what's my number one priority? That's what I've got to get done. What's my number two priority? Okay, that's getting done next. And yeah, I was actually really lucky that the business wasn't booming too much, that I didn't have orders coming in every single day that I had to package up or sew up and then send off. It was sort of like once a week instead. So that was much more manageable. So I'd have like maybe 1 or 2 orders a week. And that was sort of enough, because at the time, having a newborn as well as traveling, I was really glad that it wasn't anymore. But then at the same time, it was enough to sort of just keep tinkering away and keep feeling like I was, doing something for myself and being creative and building something.
Absolutely. So is your business to kind of fund the travels, or is it more to sort of give yourself some personal sanity?
Well, definitely the latter, giving
Yeah.
myself personal sanity. But when we do go traveling at the end of this year, I would really love for it to fund our travels in some sort of way, or even maybe for the first 6 months if it's just for myself. So if I'm launching in a month's time, which I'm hoping to, so the first year or year and a half, hopefully, is just getting off the ground. And then after that, maybe if we're getting some cash from it, that would be great. But if not, then it's okay, because I prefer to be doing something creative that I'm really enjoying, instead of using it as a tool to make money just for those first few years after relaunching. Yeah.
Absolutely. And in terms of sort of growing your business, I know you said that when you were on the road before, it wasn't necessarily booming. Is your plan to change that? And if so, how are you going to manage that when you're on the road?
Yeah, I would really love to change that. So at the moment, I'm trying to set up all these things to get it running a bit more smoother, so that when I do get on the road, there's more orders coming in, there's more of a reason to keep going with it. So at the moment, I'm trying to organize a whole bunch of photo shoots, plus I'm trying to organize sending product off to people who I follow on Instagram, or people who I find that are really inspiring, who sort of have that adventure or travel bug or whatever.
Yeah, that vagabond vibe.
Yeah, definitely. So trying to find those sort of people to give stock to, so that they can just get photos of themselves with their kids traveling, or otherwise in beautiful locations wherever. So therefore I can just keep sort of posting that on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also considering maybe just having all of my stock maybe sent here to our sort of home base, and having a family member ship it off for me. And that way I can sort of do the marketing and designing side of things, and have someone doing the packaging and shipping. And therefore it'd be a lot more time manageable, but also having all my product in one spot might be more manageable too, because therefore I don't have to think about shipping addresses, because that's a huge thing on the road too, is trying to find somewhere that you're going to get something shipped to, and then all of a sudden you need to keep moving because the weather's bad, and then you've got to get to the next spot. So it makes more sense if we could just have it all in one place and have someone ship it off for us. So there's all those things to consider, and also like writing a journal and having people sort of interested in the story behind the brand too, is something that I'm really passionate about, because I don't think something should just be a brand because it's just a brand. I think there should be a really strong story behind it. So I'm trying to get that up and running, so that I'm posting a journal more often than not. So just all like setting up all those sort of little things now, so that when we do hit the road, I'm already in a good routine where there's, things are ticking away, before we get there.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good point to note is as well, business takes time to sort of start generating income and those kinds of things. And I think people who want to start a business to fund their travels, especially, you need to give it a good amount of time, don't you, to set up those automations, set up your marketing plans, set up your logistics, even like you were saying, where's the stock going to go from, and all those kinds of things. So you sound like you've given yourself a good amount of time to pre-prepare.
Yeah, I think our last trip was definitely a huge eye-opener. I thought that it would be all good and we would be earning money and it would fund most of our travels, or at least fund maybe just our food bill for the week. But I soon found out how difficult it was, like on the road, and then having to create a product and then also package it up and ship it, like the time that it took to do that. It's much easier just to pick up a laptop or your phone and send off a bunch of emails or write back to a bunch of messages or automate a whole bunch of Instagram and Facebook posts or create a video on your phone or your laptop than it is to create a product while you're on the road, and then also having to do all that work as well. So it was definitely a huge eye-opener our last trip, and I think from that experience we've learned a lot, and I've definitely learned a lot about how I'm going to do this business when we leave at the end of the year.
Yeah. And will you always be the one at the sewing machine, or are you going to outsource that?
So with the new collection that I will be launching in about a month's time, I've gotten a few people who live, I've got a pattern maker from Victoria who's been creating my patterns for me. So I've had all these ideas and designs, and I've just asked them to create the pattern. And then I've also got a manufacturer down in Victoria as well to make the product for me. So already I have started putting in place ways for other people to be for outsourcing, I guess, because it is so much harder. The things that I want to keep achieving with this business are more than what I'm able to do myself, especially with 3 kids and also working at the moment. So it just makes it so much easier for me to outsource these things. And also for someone, I mean, I would like to think that I can do it all myself and that I'm doing it really well, but that's not the case. It's sort of, there's so many things that I want to do, and it's a matter of outsourcing it, because then the product's going to be better. I'm going to have more time for other things.
And it's totally scalable that way, because, at the end of the day, you're only one person and there's only so many products you can create in a day. And with, sort of outsourcing like that, you've got more opportunity to sort of grow your business, sell more, because, you can't possibly produce more than you can produce, can you?
Yeah, exactly. And all those other things that I want to do too. I've got a very, I guess, entrepreneurial mind. So I'm constantly like, this would be a great idea and I could do it like this or like that. And I just keep thinking of all these things that I'd love to do, but the time that I have to do that is almost unachievable. So I've got to outsource as much as I can. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like an awesome brand. I'm going to put the link to Barefoot Wanderer in the show notes for this. But what's the message? Because I know it's sort of it's sustainable fashion, isn't it? What's the message? Does it have? What's the purpose to it, I suppose?
Yeah, so it's definitely something that's at my core, is to always make sure that it's environmentally friendly. So I had to make sure that I wasn't only outsourcing my products to be made within Australia. So I've done that through even having, I've got a VA that I'm paying at the moment to help me out with all of my sort of background stuff, like getting my website up and running. And she's an Aussie. Well, actually, she's a Canadian living over here in Australia, and has a little bub and is over in West Oz. So I'd love to go and meet her when we travel. But I've also got had all my swing tags made here in Australia. I've got my pattern maker and my manufacturer here in Australia. I've even got my designer who designs all the prints, artworks on my fabric. She's an Aussie, even down to the actual design on my swing tag as well. I just wanted to make sure that I was supporting all sort of Australian businesses and make it as local as I possibly could. So I've got that, but I've also made sure that my fabric is made from recycled plastics. So it's plastics that are found or collected either in oceans or otherwise in landfills. So the fabric's made from predominantly recycled plastics. But I also just being on the road and having that experience, I realized that the clothing that I was wearing was pretty much the same day in and day out. There was only a few outfits that I would sort of alter between throughout the week, and there were always clothes that were super comfortable to wear. So some of these clothes I would wear at night as well as during the day, clothes that were quite vibrant and colorful and had like a nice pattern on them, because then I would feel like I was actually dressed up to go out. Because when you're traveling, you sort of constantly rugged and dirty and so I kind of wanted to feel and look a bit feminine still, even though I was sort of in the middle of nowhere, bare feet. I was dirty. I hadn't showered in a hot shower for days, but I've been swimming in the ocean and stuff. And you kind of just, I don't know, wanted to feel and look nice. And also we were taking a lot of photos. So I kind of wanted to make sure that I was looking back on those photos and thinking, oh, like what a beautiful scene and what a beautiful moment, instead of being like, oh, what a shame I was wearing like, dirty clothes that day, or that slobby top I had on, or whatever it was. So I found that I wore like all my best clothing, because I just thought, stuff it, like there's nowhere else to wear it to. I'm going to wear it now. And it was all very comfortable things too. So with my brand relaunching Barefoot Wanderer and making a clothing range, I really made sure that it was multifunctional clothing, that the clothing could be worn for multiple reasons, not just like, I don't know, not just something that could be worn out at night because it's a bit uncomfortable to wear at any other point in the day. So the clothing that I'm creating are like flared pants that can be worn when I'm doing my yoga on the beach, when I'm doing my hiking, like when we're bushwalking, clothing that can be worn to bed if I want to wear it to bed, because it's nice and comfortable, it's breathable. So, and also clothing that's quite durable as well, being outside a lot, and also having beautiful, vibrant prints. So that, I don't know, I just picture myself when I was traveling and thought that's what I want to create, so that all travelers or people who are constantly doing really interesting and adventurous things can wear one item of clothing throughout their whole day.
I think that's really cool, because at the end of the day, you're so right. When you're packing your van, especially, it's the choice between, do I take this dress, or like, when am I going to wear it? Is it worth taking for the once a month I might wear it, or even less? But the fact that you've created something that people can wear to bed and wear on a night out is a pretty crazy, pretty awesome thing. I love it.
Yeah, I just wonder, I hope it all works. Like, I hope that people can see it that way when I do finally launch, because I mean, it does look like it would just be something that most other brands are doing, I guess. But I don't know, just the choice of fabric and the choice of the elastic and like how much elastic I'm putting into it. So it is nice and comfortable, and it could be worn to bed and whatnot, or it could be worn for a night out. I hope people, I hope that it's, people notice that, because that's something that I noticed when I was on the road, is that I bought all these clothes with me, and I packed the bus to, I had one little drawer in the bus, and I packed it to buggery. I think I was packing clothes in other aspects of the bus, just anywhere. And then as we were traveling, I was like, I'm never wearing this because it's not comfortable. Like, I can't wear it. I can't jump into bed with it, or I'm not going out anywhere. So there's no reason to wear this item. And we just kept either shipping clothing home or just getting rid of it on the way. So I really have had that experience to sort of know, where these designs, like what the point of these designs are.
Now, in terms of, I want to get down to sort of the technical side of running a business, and what your background is. This your first business you've run?
Yeah, it's just been like a huge sort of journey with this business. So I started it 6 years ago, and it was just me sewing just random things, and now it's sort of developed into like relaunching into a clothing clothing collection, I guess. So this is sort of the first business I've had, and it's just had an interesting journey.
What skills do you think that you have got that sort of has made this into what it is today?
Oh, good question. That's a hard one. I think just the resilience of like, sometimes you fail, or sometimes things just don't work out, and just getting up the next day and trying again. Like, even thinking back to last April when I was ordering all these fabric samples, and then I'd get the fabric samples, and some of them would just be terrible, so that I wouldn't be able to, I knew straight away it wasn't stretching in the right direction, so that was no good. And then I'd have to wait for the next order to come in a week later and then see what that fabric sample was like, and sometimes that was no good, so put that to the side. And then finally, when I got got the right fabric and it was awesome, I would then send it away to get printed on, to have my print put onto it by digital printing. And even that was a process in itself, and it took months. And I just remember like getting so disheartened and really feeling like it just wasn't going to work out, because you're putting so much time and also money into it. All these samples cost money, and you're constantly making orders of them, and you don't know if you're like, sometimes I'd wait for one sample to arrive and then realize it wasn't it, and then have to like order from another company or another fabric, and then have to wait a week or two for that to arrive, and then realize that one wasn't it either. So you're constantly like looking at the time frame that you're spending on something, the finances that you're spending on it, and then as well you're just getting like completely beaten down in a way, because you just feel like, is this dream or is this idea ever going to happen? So I definitely think resilience is a part of running a business. Also I think like learning to pivot quickly, and recognizing when to pivot your ideas or your whatever it is quite crucial in having a business too. Along the way, I started realizing, oh, you know what? It's not good enough to have just a whole bunch of, pretty designs. Like, what's the purpose behind these designs? So that was a point in my business where I pivoted, and that was only maybe about 9 months ago that I sort of had to start thinking more into it. So once I did find my fabric and did get my print put on it, I started thinking, are these designs good enough? Is there a reason for it? And that's when I really came up with the multi-purposeful sort of wear, like, wearing these items for different reasons, for them having different functions. So that was something that was established a little bit later. So just like constantly reevaluating the business and the idea behind the products that you're creating, because we don't want to just like generate products into this beautiful world that we have and just keep filling up landfills. Like, they've got to last a long time. They've got to be durable. They've got to have a purpose, so people don't just throw them away. So I would definitely recommend, think that, being resilient, being able to pivot, I don't know.
No, it's definitely good advice, because I think a lot of people, when they first start a business, and I'm kind of talking now more broadly to the people who are potentially looking at starting a business to fund their big lap. There's a lot of people out there saying, yeah, start a business or do this. It's amazing. But it comes with a lot of hard work, a lot of sort of sleepless nights, a lot of long days, a lot of, I call it failing forward. So, you're talking about being resilient, and it's definitely the case. You have a failure, or you have something not go your way, or those kinds of things, but you learn from it and you change, and you adapt, and all those kinds of things. And I do think that word that you use, resilience, is just such the right word for any business owner out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, you might have so many failures, but then when you do have a win, it is so much bigger and better than anything you could even like describe, because you've had so many failures along the way, and there might only be little failures, but when you do have a big win, or something does go right, or you create, I don't know, even just simple things like, wow, my swing tag all of a sudden looks amazing, but all those little hurdles that you had to go over to get to that swing tag looking that beautiful, or getting your, I don't know, the product looking that wonderful or feeling that wonderful. It's so worth it in the end, because you had to jump over so many little hurdles to get it to that point. And even like not being perfect as well, I think is really important. There's so many things that I've thought along the way, like, that's not perfect. I need to do better. But for me, that has been me realizing, oh, you know what, maybe I need to outsource this. And that's why I've had a VA do a lot of work for me, because me sitting on the computer for a whole day would only get a couple of things done on my website, whereas this person can do it in an hour and get a whole bunch of things done. So realizing that I don't need to carry the weight of the business on my own shoulders, that sometimes it's more worthwhile in investing someone else to help. Yeah,
absolutely. And before we wrap up, I just want to talk about one thing. At the minute, you're talking about you've running a household, you're holding down a job, and you're also running this business to sort of build it into something that can sustain you whilst you're on the road. What would you say to the people that say, I don't have time to start up a side business?
I don't know. Find time.
Yeah. That's the answer I was pretty much looking for.
Yeah, if it's something that you really want to do, if it's something that you dreamed about forever, stop making excuses and do it. Because I find that I definitely make excuses for things, but you know what? Like, life isn't guaranteed. You're not guaranteed another 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. Get it done now. I don't know. I just life is beautiful and it can be long, but then it also can be really short too. And just to make the most of every moment. I don't know, me and Sam, we seem to make a lot of really short-term goals. We never really think 30 years ahead. It's sort of like, oh, stuff it. We want to do this in a year's time. So we literally like save for a house deposit, and then we're like, stuff it. This is taking too long. Let's buy a bus instead, which is what we did. Yeah, I don't know. Just thinking about short term, like, what do you want your life to look like in 3 years' time or in 5 years' time? And then working on that every single day until you get to that point, because it is sort of like a thing where you have to work on your goal every single day. It's not something that you can really do once a week, because then it won't arrive for a lot longer. So with Barefoot Wanderer, some days I'm so busy that if I can just post a story on Instagram, or if I can post a photo on Instagram, or if I can email my manufacturer, or if I can call someone to book in a photo shoot, or whatever it is, if it's just one thing that I can do every single day for it, then I'm winning.
Yeah,
and if
absolutely.
I can do 10 things in the day for it, then it's like I'm cheering because I've done 10 things. Yeah.
And you know what? That's going back to what you said about just celebrating the little wins. Like, give yourself a break, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you have got a huge, if you're working full time and you do have kids and you don't have time to work on a business until Sunday afternoon at 6 o'clock when all the kids go to bed, then so be it. Then work on it on Sunday afternoon when all the kids go to bed. But yeah, make the most of that time and really set yourself some goals. I'm a huge goal setter and like manifester, and so I have all my goals written down for this year, and I don't know, I'm wondering how the hell I'm going to achieve them. If I don't achieve them, I'll be really pissed off at myself. But yeah, definitely write some goals down and then follow them through every day.
Love it. Excellent. Thanks so much for joining me. It's been really good chat. And like I say, I'm going to put the links to your Instagram, both your personal, your bus life one, and your bus looks, your Instagram looks amazing. So people need to go over there and check it out. I see that you posted a video of you doing the inside of it. So that'll be a good one to follow along with. And also, at the moment. Sorry.
It's a complete construction side.
Well, I'm sure it'll get there, and I think people should watch along with your progress, because I think it'll be awesome. And I'll also put a link to the Barefoot Wanderer Instagram page as well there. So thank you again for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's been lovely. And hi to everyone who's out there listening.
So what do you think about running a physical product label from the road? Is it something that you do? Comment below and like this video, and as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel.